Welcome here to the ESL Major League Americas. I am Solid Jake.
And I'm Kubi.
And
We have a very, very important night tonight. Some very special games.
We do. Some very, very special games because, well, this is the second play day of week number 6 here in the ESL Major League, and that means next week is the final week prior to playoffs. There's a lot on the line, and
This is true.
we happen to have the top 3 seeded teams playing today, or the top 3, not seeded, but currently ranking teams.
And so, first match we're going to be looking at tonight is Lunatic Esports versus 2Arc Gaming. And for the most part, seed and point-wise, you would expect to see 2Arc win here. If Lunatic wins, they are still actually capable of bumping their seed up in relegation. They do have the potential to overtake Evil Geniuses, I think, because they would be tied record-wise, but would have a better match score.
I think you're correct.
So there is still some effort to be put in here if they want to try to get that better relegation slot, which gives them earlier spot in line to picking which team they go up against from the 4 teams that qualify from the 2 ESL monthlies.
Very true, very true. And of course, the second matchup tonight, that's going to be our 2 top seeds right now, and that's of course Tempo Storm and Barrel Boys. Now Barrel Boys are sitting at that undefeated position, and we can look at the standings here. They're sitting at 5-0. Tempo Storm, their 1 loss versus 2Arc. 2Arc also sitting at 4-1. So,
yes. So if 2Arc, there's like a whole set of scenarios that can happen here. Right, so whichever team of these 2 wins right now, I believe that they get first seed. There may be a very specific scenario where if Tempo Storm wins and 2Arc wins all of their matches. I was actually asking CSD about this earlier.
That's assuming that Tempo Storm wins their game next week, though.
Yes, it's all assuming that Tempo Storm and 2Arc both go 2-0 in both of their sets from here on out for the rest of the league.
Yeah.
I think technically 2Arc has a better record, and they also beat them in heads up. So that might put them. It gets very complicated. But if Barrel Boys wins tonight, I think that they are cemented into that top spot. It is still possible for either team that loses between the 2, Barrel Boys and Tempo Storm. If either of them lose, they could get bumped out by 2Arc, and 2Arc could overtake and take that second spot, which is very important going into the seeding for the playoffs.
Right, yeah, because of course playoffs is just the top 4 teams from the standings, and it's so close. But we have a few other storylines we can't talk about in those standings, and of course that is really just the EG Murlocs Maelstrom scenario. Now, last night we saw Cloud9 Maelstrom face off versus Evil Geniuses. They defeated them 2-0, which puts EG out of the running because EG, their final standing will be 3-4, as their opponent for next week is supposed to be Lunatic. So Synapsis.
Yes.
So EG is done. They are done with their games.
Finished,
their final standing is going to be 3-4, and on the other hand, it's going to be Maelstrom versus Murlocs next week.
And yes, that's really, really hype because that is fighting for that number 4 spot going into the playoffs. And of course, that gets you the money, right? And you don't want to be put into that relegation spot going forward to try to get into Season 2. If you get into playoffs, you get that money, the chance to get that top prize pool, and you also get automatically put into Season number 2. So, of course, that is a huge, huge battle between those 2 teams next week.
Right.
Next Thursday?
It's
next
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Yep. So they're vying for the final spots tonight. We're vying for the top 3 spots. And really, I mean, Lunatic, you can't stress enough how important it is to have that seeding because, like you mentioned, when it comes to the relegation matches, the way relegation works is the bottom 4 teams in this Season 1 do go to relegations, and then 4 teams come from the Go for Heroes monthlies to challenge. You play a single best of 3, but if you're the 5th seed, you get to pick your team first. Then 6th seed picks their opponent, so you have the pick. It's like, oh, we can stop those nerds. Good, let's fight them. we want those guys. We know we played them before. And
a lot of these teams have played, especially when you consider the Go for monthlies previously. There's a lot of up and coming teams, and I'm sure that they have had at least some practice against them. They have a good idea. They've watched their games previously, so they're doing their scouting right, and they're checking all these teams that are up and coming. They'll have a good idea as to at least their play style, if not just who they feel comfortable fighting against to secure themselves that spot in Season 2.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happening tonight.
Yes.
And we're going to get the draft going in very, very, very shortly.
Right. So our first match is going to be Lunatic Esports versus 2Arc.
Who do you think has the advantage? Now, Lunatic, they've been having their record doesn't show how well they've played in some of these matches.
That's true.
They've actually had some really good games.
If I recall, did they take a game off of Maelstrom?
They did.
Last they played
Maelstrom
them?
went to Game 3.
Maelstrom has been looking so strong lately. That's absolutely an achievement. It was a very close series, actually.
Last week, right?
Yeah, I think so. And that went to Game 3, and Game 3 was close. They had a chance, for sure, that they could have taken that.
Yep.
So you're right. That's a good way to look at it. They are certainly capable of upsetting 2ARC here. But you asked me the question, who do I think has the advantage? I will give it to 2ARC. They also have been looking very strong. Their drafts look very clean. Their execution is good. So it's going to be an uphill battle for Lunatic Esports, but they can do it, like we said, because they brought the pain to Maelstrom last week. They didn't quite finish it off, but they looked good.
Well, one thing to note is Asadia is no longer with us. Chubbs has officially replaced Asadia, and that is in fact the same person. He just got an in-game name change, so good for him, finally being Chubbs in both realms. But we see that the first ban went on Hammer. We're looking at Dragonshire. So,
Sky Temple?
Skyshire.
Skyshire. All right, it is Sky Temple. So this, yeah, I can understand seeing the Hammer ban. Who else do we feel is particularly strong in this? We've even seen Gazlo playing on this map. Not to a huge efficacy is the word that I'll throw out at you guys.
So fancy. It's a big word. Kubi's throwing words I don't even know.
That said, mobility can be an issue, and it sometimes is valued a lot in these drafts, but the teams have been getting so good at the rotations. They know when these temples are going to pop up to try and get that extra time to siege on the enemy's towers and structures. And mobility is playing less and less of a factor, unlike, for example, Cursed Hollow, where the tributes can spawn halfway across the map. And if you're playing Hammer and you have to be bottom lane sieging to try and get some extra work done there, you almost have to forego even going up there. Just, all right, we'll take some siege damage, and we'll go with that. But probably going to be giving up the fight at tribute. Not so much the case here.
We are being assaulted by a cat right now, but that's okay. The draft continues. We'll give you guys your cat just because she's here. She's here. All right, back to the draft. So looking at the draft, Uther is going to be the first pick. Rhaegar is banned out, so they're securing that support that 2ARC, in a way, they've opened the door for that, but they obviously didn't opt for the first pick on Uther. But this is a really nice start for Lunatic, no matter how you look at it. You have nice support. Again, the Uther stuns help out so much with dealing with Illidan aggression, and then Vala for that crazy deeps.
Yes. Following that, we have Tassadar and Tyrande picked up. Usually, Tyrande is scooped up with the warrior of choice. Not always, but at least what we've seen over the past week is oftentimes those two are grabbed together to try and secure that. The most notable pair being Stitches. You get a ton of value with the hooks into Lunar Flare, Hunter's Mark. It's just such a classic combo that we've been seeing as of late.
I like the idea behind this, though, because they pick up Tassadar and Tyrande. That's two healing wards. You're fighting over all these temples constantly, so it's a lot of sustain while still having a ton of damage. And you mentioned Stitches as a big option, but Diablo is a really strong option as well. So they have that tank flexibility since they're this far into the draft already. There are no bans out. And what team wants to get Diablo and Stitches? Like, it's not bad.
There's another possibility, because we are talking about 2ARC, and that being Tyrael.
Oh, are we going to see Diablo and Stitches? Lightning Breath Life with Putrid Bile Life? Are they just going to say, who does that?
I think
and do it?
I think taking Witch Doctor makes a lot of sense.
But the denial is
yes,
what you have to
but
consider.
they also have to be scared of that Tyrael. There's not a lot of teams that are running Tyrael, but 2ARC is one of them, and they run it to good effectiveness.
Now, if you do grab Stitches here, you're putting ETC in the hands of 2ARC, which is just fine. But yeah, you keep mentioning that Tyrael pick, and Tyrael, Lunar Flare, Hunter's Mark. It's really scary also, and they are the team that likes it. So this is very, very nice.
It's cool to have that trump card, because they're not worried about Tyrael getting sniped, because no other team's really running Tyrael at the time being. So they have that fallback card, and they can almost force Lunatic to take drafts and snipes that make sense for playing against other teams. But it's like, okay, yeah, you can run double tank if you want. We'll just take Tyrael because we know we can run it well, and then take advantages elsewhere in the draft.
Okay. Lord Malf. The double support.
They have double healing war, but no direct support.
Well, I was talking about the Malf with their double support personally.
Oh, I see. Yes,
but
yes. That's a good point. Yeah.
The Tuark, yes, they want to grab their warrior. And Stitches is still on the table, so it makes a lot of sense with that Lunar Flare. And like you said, they don't have a direct support, so Brightwing Stitches, is that what we're going to see?
That is a possibility. Does Brightwing Tyrael make a lot of sense?
This could be a tankless cop.
Sonya?
Why? It could be Sonya. It could be something completely different. You just use Illidan as a tank. It's entirely possible.
They have run this in the past as well.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to see Abathur. This is the kind of composition where that gets a little bit weird, but it's viable. It is ETC, a more standard pick. Okay.
What should we expect to see for this final pick for Lunatic? Very likely it will be damage. They are a bit low in that department, considering they have the double support. What is available, considering... I mean, Nazeebo still makes sense in my book. There's really just Tyrande that needs to be worried about. Yes, stage dive could happen into one of his stuns. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Polymorph, maybe. But if the positioning is right, that could work. Jaina, maybe. If you're looking for raw damage output, it seems as though those two would be the strongest options.
Jaina's good. Zagara works.
Is Jaina too risky given the composition that Tuark has?
No. But it's definitely a bit scary. Definitely not too risky. Even something like Lost Vikings could work here. This is actually a very interesting scenario where there's so many good options on the table. Now, Ravenous is huge. And ETC, like you said, stage dive, yeah, sure, but they do go for Jaina. Okay.
Yeah, we're looking probably at the rest of the composition and saying, okay, our damage is a bit low. Who's the best pickup for us? Yes, Vala does do excellent amounts of just raw damage output, but alone, she's going to be running into issues. Sure, Diablo Lightning Breath, if the positioning is really good, but you don't necessarily want to be relying on that. I think Jaina makes a lot of sense. I would have been okay with Nazeebo as well.
Yeah, no, Jaina definitely can work out marvelously. I mean, the big thing you got to worry about in this match is that Lunar Flare. And Lunar Flare can ruin your day when you pair that with Hunter's Mark and you let Illidan just kind of go to town on your face. But yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see this pan out. Both teams have very powerful rosters, of course. This is the incredible amount of sustainability for Tuark Gaming with their two melee DPS. Tyrande and Tassadar can never really count their damage out. I mean, their damage output is something good. Every time we see Hunter's Mark go down on something like a Stitches or an ETC, they become a Jaina suddenly.
Yes, it's a very good point to bring up. How do you feel about the Brightwing? I haven't seen Brightwing that much.
I mean, I'm excited because I think a lot of people wrote her off too soon, and I think Brightwing is actually a fantastic hero. Paired with this composition with a lot of small supports, I actually think it's going to be a little bit more of an aggressive Brightwing with a ton of mobility, and just the tool of A, things like cleanse, and B, things like poly is going to be crucial. I do think it'll be a cleanse blink heal style Brightwing.
Even with the extra supports, the double healing ward, you think it will still be blink heal?
There's no real threat needed for the Emerald Wind. Emerald Wind can be huge for pushing people off the temple.
Yes.
Definitely has utility, but blink heal has mobility and just safety.
Yes. Good points. We are loading into the game. There we go. Excellent.
Now let's see what side our teams spawn on. Looking like Lunatic will be on the left, so let me get that all set up.
Fun times. In the meantime, let's go ahead and introduce the teams for Lunatic Esports. On the blue side, we have Hospital playing Uther. Ivy Slime's going to be on Vala. Daihu will be playing Diablo. Silal on Jaina. And Proteges will be playing Malfurion.
And on the other half of the map, in the red trunks, that's going to be Tuark Iliad, with Trender playing as Tassadar. It will be Quibsy on Illidan. Panucci, rocking ETC. Chubbs finally got his name changed. No longer a Sadia. Still the same dude, playing Brightwing. And who did I miss? That's Furious D. He's rocking Tyrande. Looking at the talents at level 1, we actually are going to see Pierce in this game. Not so much a pick comp. When you have pick comp Tyrande, that's when you get the reduced 8-second cooldown on the Hunter's Mark. Not this game.
Also, Arcane Precision for Brightwing. Oftentimes we're seeing the Sticky Flare. No, sorry. Is it?
Sticky Flare is at 13.
It Sticky Powder? I can never remember the name of that level 1 talent. It basically increases the amount of blocks.
Pixie Shield.
From Pixie Shield, there it is.
Pixie Dust is the normal
right,
build.
Right. So since they nerfed the amount of block charges that it gives you at level 1, it went from 2 to 1, and the upgrade it doubles it essentially. We've seen that grabbed more and bribed less and less.
Yes, that's actually very true, but it's interesting to see a bit of a rise here in the Arcane Precision. Now, of course, that's just increased damage on the center of the Arcane Flare, but when you're fighting over these tributes, and like we mentioned, we have this triple support, this is potentially going to be a little bit more aggro of a Brightwing, because with Rewind gone at level 13, we tend to see Sticky Flare at that talent tier, giving you a lot of utility. I mean, that's a ton of slow for a long period of time. I believe it's 3 seconds and 30%, so it's
a sizable amount.
Oh, the guy's talking to us.
We have some closed captioning provided by Ka.
It's definitely a setting that I need to change after this game. But Brightwing is just kind of going around, staying in this bottom lane, soaking as long as possible because, of course, Phase Shift is available and he can just teleport into the top of the map.
Yes, and at 1 minute and 30 seconds, these temples spawn in the top and mid areas. It looks as though Lunatic Esports is going to be providing most of the pressure to mid, and they will deal with the top temple shortly after. What is going to be the approach for 2Ark?
Yeah, they're waiting for that phase shift. There it goes, and ETC immediately dashes in. Now all 5 members have rotated up. They're looking for Silo, and they manage to get the kill. Very, strong amount of aggression, diving in, ETC coming from the back, picking up 2 kills, force them off that shrine, and the support, the triple sustain, once they had that level 4, they waited for 4. They got those healing wards.
Yes, the double healing ward, and of course the pulsing heal from Brightwing. The focus was there for the team. I think that was a big part of it as well.
And
between that and level 4.
This is aggro Brightwing. He did get in Venom.
I like it.
What?
Has this changed your mind? Are we gonna see Emerald Wind?
Not necessarily, but it's cool. I'm excited. Blink Hill still makes a lot of sense to me. Especially considering the layout of the map, but it can go both ways. But I mean, this is a build that we don't see, so I really can't say for sure.
We mentioned that the winning team would likely rotate up to gather the extra charges on this top temple. Exactly what 2Ark is doing in this particular case.
And they've already got a full level lead right now, Coop. So
sure, the structure, the towers that end up being picked off due to the first 2 temples being held. Yeah, the experience adds up very quickly.
Chubbs is just bullying Protojays. He's like, yo, I'm Deep Swing. I will fight you. Ka is chuckling. Ka is, of course, the announcer on this map. He is just letting out a nice little chuckle. Of course, when you disable the voices on the map, it actually gives you closed captioning. Now, a few towers will lose their life, and the Sentinel will pass in night.
Paying attention for the Brightwing grab. Oh, True Shot Aura on the Tyrande, which is going to be that extra DPS output for allies that are nearby. And still, Brightwing.
Probably Gust of Healing. On this map, it makes a lot of sense, but he's thinking about it. He's really thinking about it a lot. Guitar Hero picked up, and it is Gust of Healing. Okay. Especially when you're going for this very, AoE heal, get on top of them, clump up, and fight them. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have multi-shot and Blizzard. We're actually just going to sustain through it.
I'm curious to see if this Bruiser can't pick up is a little too early for actually both teams.
Yeah, they're both doing it.
I was okay with just Illidan grabbing it for 2Ark. They have 2 heroes grabbing it for Lunatic Esports. They're trying to time it, at least I would hope, so that they can apply some pressure to the top lane. Both teams know that the next temple is going to be on the very bottom of the map. Right, so you may as well have a mercenary camp trying to do a bit of split push at the top. It's often seen that both teams will grab these merc camps, but if one grabs them too early, the opposing team puts a little bit of pressure, cleans the camp up, and takes it at the proper time. Then you're looking at a set where the Knights are already soaking and potentially already grabbed. Oh, Protojays catching, and Illidan with the body blocks. Very nicely done. Illidan and ETC providing enough coverage, and wow, Panucci is going to find himself very low. The block's actually kicking in. That was probably what allowed him to live.
He was dead. He was dead. I don't know if it was Pixie Dust or just the block talent. I'm not sure which actually activated the block, but no matter how you look at it, it saved his life. And yeah, like that knockback he used, just the knockback from ETC and the body block from Illidan, so on point in that. And that as a duo, they're so scary.
Sure, there's a lot of control in the form of those bodies as they're able to get to the other side of the opponents through their their base kit. Of course, the power slide and the, I'll just call it the flip because Illidan's talents are just, or his abilities, dive and sweeping strike. How exciting.
Well, yeah, that's true in terms of the names. Dive, sweeping strikes. It's my favorite Magic card right there. Now, looking at what's happening in this game right now, we got double battle momentum. I mean, I don't know if this Diablo's going Lightning Breath or Apocalypse, but still it's good. No matter how you look at it. Brightwing has been able to sit here in the top lane and soak. As a result, they have a 2-level advantage. Well, more like just over a level and a half, I guess you could say. But they do have the heroic advantage. It's just allowing them to not only get this bottom temple, but so much presence on the map.
In addition to the phase shift, we didn't consider the possibility of stage dive as well. That's 2 heroes that can global split push across the map, and then when necessary, if a team fight erupts, they can both get there in a matter of seconds. It might lead to some interesting plays from 2Ark.
It really could. Those giants will be picked up.
Jake, yes. I had an epiphany while we were talking about Illidan's abilities. We're always talking about him being the janitor, right?
He's the
janitor.
He
cleans up.
He cleans up.
And one of his abilities is named Sweeping Strike.
Oh my god! This changes everything, but that Metamorphosis is going to change that Malfurion's life by ending it, and then Hospital is next on the menu. Silo gets hit by the stage dive, and he will fall Lightning Breath, dealing out a ton of damage, but not really going to be enough to end anything. The boss was aggroed in that stop, but the triple support is enough to sustain it. They're just going to probably turn around and fight this boss.
Do they have enough health? Are both the healing wards down? Well, one of them is still sitting there, but do they have enough? Yeah, it doesn't look as though Lunatic Esports is going to attempt to counter this pressure.
You've got the Brightwing pulsing, you've got the heals and shields. I mean,
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot available for 2Ark. Okay. Daihu going to try to dive in. I don't think this is the right call. ETC blocking out almost enough for Diablo to get back in with that Shadow Charge. Not quite enough. It was very risky, I thought, for them to go in there to contest that, considering the amount of heroes they were down. It ended up costing them.
I like what Lunatic is doing. We've seen this style where they kind of just get on top of you, 2Ark, and they just kind of get in your face, and they have Gust of Healing, they've got the double healing ward, they have a ton of support. Their response is Divine Storm, Lightning Breath, and Twilight Dream.
That is the big one. And that can provide quite a bit of control, especially the stuns that are available, but just the silence.
Rain of Vengeance, too. Like,
yes, of course.
There's so much there. So they have that Wombo potential.
Silence is a very underutilized ability factor in this game right now. Of course, it is only available to Malfurion in the form of his heroic, and that is his off heroic as well. Kubzi might be finding himself in a bit of a sticky situation. The rest of his team is able to catch up to provide him some support.
He's got like 10 supports.
Did have to use his heroic though, Metamorphosis, to get him out.
Very
not ideal.
Not ideal at all. But ETC sitting on that bottom shrine temple.
Brightwing providing the additional amount of
soak.
Split push.
Yeah. So this is a nice nice small victory because honestly, the level 13 has not been achieved for Lunatic, but they're being able to control a temple. They're getting that siege. They're finally going to take out some structures, and they're trying to rotate around a little bit more to get some more soak. We see Ivy Slime Hospital. They're capturing that tower, making their way to the middle lane to catch up, hit that 13, and try to catch up in levels because right now they're a bit behind.
In the Brightwing taking down this wall leaves the opportunity, if they choose to get aggressive later with the boss in terms of giving up. Jake is chuckling over the announcer, I think.
Nope. Yeah, he's
but
so good.
If they take this wall down, it does leave the opportunity for them to forego temples later on in terms of grabbing the boss and pushing out with that. We see this strategy done a lot on Cursed Hollow. And it could just take one very strong push with a boss to potentially end the game if the play and rotation isn't quite there for Lunatic.
Now, Kubi, I actually just... Remember how I said we don't ever see this Brightwing play? This is my solo queue Brightwing style, where I sprint in and I Emerald Wind kids and do as much damage as possible. And there's that Emerald Wind pushing Protege. You can't cast while you're being pushed away by the Emerald Wind, and it just hit them in such a impactful position where it ruins the entire team. Hospital is going to be sent to the hospital, and Illidan is dashing forward. I don't think I've ever made that pun. And
there were so many times where you almost have done it, and it just never lended itself the opportunity. There it was.
Yes, thank you.
There it was. No ice block from Malfurion.
No,
and I think that there was a point, especially at the start of that fight, where it probably could have done quite a bit of work to save him. Perhaps get that Twilight Dream off that we didn't see have any impact in the fight. If he was able to stay alive a little bit longer, switch the focus off his target. But as you mentioned, Emerald Dream Emerald Wind. There we go.
Twilight. It actually
Twilight
just,
Winds.
Oh,
we just mix and match those.
I can't wait for the Brightwing Dragon or the Malfurion Dragon. It's like this big bearded dragon that comes out as a new hero.
Blizz, if you're paying attention, skins. We're just doling out ideas to you guys. Just you can take them.
Sweeping Strikes has actually just ruined me. Like that's why is the icon not a broom?
It should be a broom. It should be a broom. It's just a lost opportunity. 2 temples have spawned mid and bottom. 2 Arc is in a very, very favorable position, not only in levels, but also map control. Many of the Merc camps on the map are red, and we have Giants pushing out bottom. I assume that is Giants. Boss is up in a minute. Things are looking good for 2 Arc. What do we want to see for Lunatic? Should they get a little bit more aggressive starting these team fights? Use that amount of control and capability that they have to just decimate the team. They could if they catch 2 Arc lumped up. It's possible, right?
As weird as it is compared to what I said in the start of the game, I think they need to bait out the Emerald Wind because they have this perfect setup, but Emerald Wind can just stop it.
Sure.
Now, of course, if you hit the Twilight first, yes, that will prevent the Emerald Wind from happening, and then your setup could continue going forward. But it's such a fine dance that you need to try to execute. And yeah, stuff like Uther initiating with a stun on Brightwing followed by an Emerald Wind might be what they need, but this stage dive initiate followed by that Tranquility, it does stall them out for a little while, but Protojays doesn't seem to be able to get that damage off, like you mentioned with the Ice Block not having that, not going to put into a very good position. And they managed to just ruin ETC's day, but Daihu, the last remaining member here for Lunatic Esports, will end up falling.
There were some nice plays. Credit to 2 Arc with the Emerald Wind. Saved a few members of the team that had gotten low. That whole story of the team fight, though, was level advantage. And, talent tier advantage, of course, at level 16. It's not really a whole lot. Basically, Lunatic has to grab a very favorable position for them to win a team fight. They have to get a pick where it's completely isolated and not risky for Lunatic to go in and grab that kill, then try to engage in a 4v5. Even then, it can still be tricky. Or they need to find a position where 2 Arc doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver around, but Emerald Wind can make that very difficult. What they did there was more or less take on a 5v5 in where you're down a talent tier and you are down in levels.
Man, if I just walked into this crescent of minions, I'd leave.
I would leave.
I would just leave.
Jake is no noble warrior himself.
Not doing that. I'm a little cute dragon. Oh, goodness. They stopped. Oh, my temple's power has been expended.
Jake is still very amused by closed captioning today. Yeah, Arc, I like this. They've taken an aggressive position. They probably made the assumption, Lunatic did, that Brightwing had to either phase shift out or hearth back just to keep the mobility. They knew that was the only available hero to grab that bottom temple. They said, okay, we might be able to force a 4v5, grab the offensive Giants. These are the types of plays. Wait, they didn't even get it? Oh! Okay, I didn't catch the 2 Arc had captured it, and then they immediately went into
right.
brain fart. Excuse me, guys.
It happens, Scooby. It happens to all of us. And level 19 is a thing that's happening right now as 2 Arc is on their race to 20. Looking at the talents in this game, yeah, Racecar, Tassadar, we have all these nice things, and the opposing presence is going to help them deal with that Illidan, having the double imposing presence, now that they do have 16, or 17. But like you mentioned, Lunatic has got to find that favorable engagement where they manage to stop the Brightwing. I think he has to actually be their focus target, but it's so hard to do that when you have an ETC and a Lunar Flare coming on top of you. Like there's a lot of control available.
Do you think a rotation to stop the ETC, force him to use a stage dive to get out, is a smart call? Right now they're sending the one hero up, and
yeah, it definitely could help.
They do need to try to remove this split push potential, I think, before they can even attempt to catch people off guard. Because the only people that are going to be out are Brightwing and ETC. The rest of the team will be rotating safely between these temples and taking map objectives. And they're just keeping an eye on Lunatic Esports, seeing what the position is, and trying to just play safe.
I like this, showing themselves as the Sentinel passes by. He's like, hey, look, we're at the boss. Hey, come fight us. And this is kind of really smart. Brightwing, of course, has that phase shift available, so she's going to go sit on to the top temple and just wait and wait and wait as long as she can before she has the phase shift. But now they're forcing the rotation up from Lunatic. They're going to get that initiation onto Trader, but that's not the target you want. You can just dimensional shift out of here. But at the very least, they did expend one of the healing wards.
2Ark is playing this perfectly. They're putting a ton of pressure onto Lunatic Esports by having that top temple captured. This is what, quote unquote, Lunatic's time to try and capture a fight. 2Ark is playing very like, hey, you want to grab this guy? Nope. Okay, we're going to back up real quick. Just waste your time while Brightwing finishes capturing that top temple.
The Twilight Dream completely whiffs. It just connects with the Illidan. Oh my goodness, but the Divine Storm Rain of Vengeance is there. Lightning Breath doing a sizable amount of damage, and they're managing to take this fight. Brightwing, of course, had continuous wins, but not quite enough. The flip there onto Finucci with the slow coming out, forcing Bolt of the Storm on our ETC player.
That's a very that's the start of things for Lunatic. They need to try and capitalize on situations, especially with the amount of stuns and lockdown they have. They forced Illidan to a bad spot where he had to meta backwards. They turned around, focused all of their efforts on him. And Brightwing, they managed to pick up the 2 kills very quickly, which is important, even though they have this level deficit. Still, a lot of minions are putting quite a bit of pressure and forcing Lunatic to not really capitalize on these 2 kills as much as they would like to, perhaps in the form of map control, taking mercenary camps. They have to clean up continuously because of the catapults that are pushing onto the core.
I can hear the announcer's voice in my head, but I can't actually hear it. Daihu gets hit by that Sentinel, or the Lunar Flare, excuse me, dealing a decent chunk of damage. The boss remains. Lunatic going to be able to capture their own giants, but they only have a single remaining keep at this point in time, whereas 2Ark's still sitting on a single fort. So structurally, it's looking really rough, and a level 20 still has not been achieved, just about hitting 19.
Jake, are you going to give us your best Ka impression to fill us in? We don't have the announcer voice.
Oh, Ka, yeah, yes. I'll have to read it from now on.
Okay, good. Because it's just like there's a hole in my life where I just there's no announcer voice. I'm lost.
I could turn it on, but that's no fun.
No. You're gonna have to do your best.
Okay, good. We got that. Well, the mule has his singular building to heal, and he's gonna do his very best to heal that up. Mule hasn't had a big impact in this game. Seen it on there. It's a decent option for Malfurion. You're giving up something like the Enduring Growth. You're giving up the Elun's Grace. That's the increased range in all your abilities by 2. Those are 2 big things to give up, but this kind of like weird mouth build, it's definitely like trying to be more utility than just straight up support. So I like the idea of picking up the Mule and the Shrink Ray in this game.
The high mobility factor for 2Ark is making things very difficult for Lunatic Esports to make a comeback. I was suggesting, okay, they need to soak until they hit level 20, but they also have to keep a very vigilant eye on the boss. If they allow 2Ark to capture the boss, they're going to fall even further behind in terms of push. It's something they have to respond to. And then they continue to take these 2 temples, which might just end the game on their own if 2Ark owns both of them. And they're setting themselves up very nicely. It looks as though Lunatic Esports is going to make one final attempt.
Right.
And they need this. They need this to be a
checkmate.
Slam dunk.
If this fight is even drawn out, they will lose. And getting Finucci at the start of the fight is exactly what they need. The Shadow Charge, but the Bolt of the Storm gets him out. Storm Shield comes out, and the healing wards are healing up so very quickly. Uther is using Sprint to try to contest, but Quibsy still has that Metamorphosis capability. Oh, so many eggs were used in that fight, if that's a term. Rain of Vengeance not really connecting with a whole lot, and Protojays will be the first one to end up falling.
Quibsy dashing in, using the Metamorphosis, is going to try and clean up this fight as best as possible. Daihu using the Shadow Charge to at least salvage what he can for the rest of his team in this team fight. Oof. They just, yeah, you're right. They expended so much effort attempting to kill that ETC, and it just wasn't quite enough. They were doing a very nice job chaining all of their CCs together. The Hammer of Justice, the Divine Storm, not quite enough. And these 2 temples, along with the boss, already having started sieging the core. That is going to be a 1-0 victory for 2Ark.
Yeah, taking the first game of this best-of-3 series, I mean, in a pretty convincing fashion. So close in that last fight, though. ETC was down to a sliver, and they had that chain stun. The Shadow Charge put him in a position where he didn't want to be. Yeah. But that's Bolt of the Storm. That's the power of it.
And that's do we see that too? Yeah.
At ETC? Yeah.
He has the what was the weird one they gave him? They didn't give him the Storm Shield talent.
I don't think he has any generic talents.
Yeah, they it said they were giving him one. It never did.
Yeah.
So more often than not, we are seeing that bolt, and it's the power of it right there. He can also blink to the other side of the team. He has so much mobility with that and stage dive. Yeah, that hurt. That was painful. They also still didn't have level 20, so I wonder how the rest of the fight even would have gone.
Right.
Having eliminated ETC very early, still those level 20 talents, Storm Shield, continuous wins, the Archon upgrade. It's significant with a 2-level lead on top of that.
Significant.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's like understating it. 20 is such a big deal.
It is.
But
it really is.
Either way, very well played by 2Ark, looking incredibly convincing. I mean, they're sitting there tied for second place here in the Major League. They want to bring their score there to 5-1 with today's, if they can take this series today, and
puts them in a good spot.
It does. It puts them in a great spot, Kubi.
Ooh, great. Tony the Tiger here. Excellent.
I think we're going to get ready for game 2, though.
Sure. I think that sounds good. Yeah. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, guys, while we get that game set up.
Guys, welcome back here to the ESL Major League America. I am joined by the illustrious Kubus Maximus Halver.
And I am joined by the great Solid Jake.
The great.
Great. A little bit of rhyming there.
Ooh.
The great Solid
Ooh.
Jake.
So nice. So divine.
Ooh.
Well, we just witnessed Tuark taking game number 1 of this best of 3 series.
Bit of an interesting composition, especially seeing Brightwing in there, and then 2 other semi-supports, along with Illidan and ETC.
Are they semi-supports or are they pseudo-supports? What do we call them?
Semi-pseudo.
Sumudo.
No, just semi-pseudo. Denied.
Darn. Well,
maybe next time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to talk about those healing wards. I mean, it's like, oh, hey, have a healing ward. Oh, have another one. Oh, guess what? I also do a lot of damage. That's pretty cool.
And the pulse healing. And the shields.
The DPS Brightwing, very interesting. It's actually my favorite solo queue build, where you go with the Arcane Precision at 1, Envenom at 4, at 7 you can go healing. It's kind of mix it up. You get a little bit of healing there, so Gust of Healing is what we saw in that game. Emerald Wind, but the sprint Emerald Wind is what's so fun. You just sprint in front of them and you say, bah! That's what Brightwing says when she does it, yeah. Oh. She turns into a pigeon.
What?
We got a draft.
Okay. Change of subject is great today.
Regis will be the first ban.
I gotta give credit to Tuark. The Emerald Winds were on point. A lot of them were very impactful in those team fights, which is usually we see maybe 1 or 2 per game that have that huge turning of the team fight. Just about every team fight, Emerald Wind had a large factor in it. So kudos.
True.
We haven't seen Brightwing play like that in a while. We haven't seen Brightwing play in general in some time.
Talk about Illidan. He's a pretty good hero. He kind of won a few team fights, and by a few, I mean he cleaned up. He did his job well. He's a very noble, high-ranking janitor at my high school that I went to.
Oh,
the guy's name was Illidan. He had some nice boots, a nice big mop, and
sweeping strike,
cleaned those floors. Those kids sure as hell did not clean up after themselves.
Yeah,
it was all in Illidan.
He was hunting down those pieces of trash on the floor. Get it?
Oh, goodness. I love it.
I love it. All right, moving on. The Rhaegar bans. Twice in a row, we've seen that for Tuark. Perhaps this is just anti-Tuark playstyle to go Rhaegar or to be playing against Rhaegar. We've mentioned this before, they like to go styles and strategies that involve isolating targets and eliminating them. Ancestral Healing kind of goes against that, yeah?
Yeah, it definitely does. It kind of... Well, it does things that heal you to full.
It does things.
It does things that heal you to full.
But
okay, I like this. The Tassadar and Tyrande, they are no longer dating. They've split up. They're on opposite sides of the battlefield. So
tragic.
Uther Tyrande. This really looks like a Stitches kind of comp because you get that pull in with the hook, and then you can just remove that target in such a convincing fashion because both of them have stuns. You have Hunter's Mark, and you can pair a lot of things with this. We've seen Jaina be a popular pick with that kind of composition.
Stitches Jaina would be the strong heroes, the 2 pickups. I would be very much agreeing with that. I think going Stitches, and then who else would make sense if you didn't want to grab Jaina for some reason? Well, considering it is Garden of Terror, Nazeebo's not a bad call.
Right, Nazeebo's not a bad call. Zagara does work too. You throw that Hydra down. Zagara has a decent amount of burst damage, so once they're locked in place and the Hydra can get 2 or 3 shots off, it hurts. It hurts a lot. So definitely can work, and of course having this big map, the wards available in form of the creep tumors on the creep for Zagara is huge. It really is.
Now, do they put this much faith into having Stitches to deal with Hammer, or do you think they should try to add other heroes into their lineup to try and deal with her specifically?
Ooh, okay. I'm not even going to respond because we see Lord Dibbles.
No, that's fine. Just brush those questions off.
Just like Sweeping Strikes would.
Sweeping Strikes. Diablo, how do you feel about that?
Works in the same sense as Stitches, but they could actually grab both. And I say that because Lightning Breath, after you've thrown them into this terrible positioning, Lightning Breath with Hunter's Mark melts kids. Normal Lightning Breath actually heals the enemy team. With
it needs Hunter Mark to apply any damage.
Yeah, and it just reverses this, just melts them instead.
Gotcha. I get it. Melts them. Shoots fire.
Good. Yeah.
All right. I'm not so sure I like the Stitches. Well, yes, what you mentioned is a good point. It will help you to control picking targets quite a bit. If the positioning is good for 2-arc, and they can opt to just go for ETC and protect the hammer, they could even go for ETC Nazebo.
Okay.
So Diablo Jaina, we were saying Stitches Jaina.
I mean,
it can still work.
Yeah, it definitely goes both ways. This is a very EG-esque build. We actually see this exact composition out of Evil Geniuses. They like this a lot. Diablo does work as a replacement in some regard to what Stitches does. Stitches has the hook, Diablo has the flip. You just line up that Lunar Flare afterwards, paired with Hunter's Mark, second stun from Uther. It doesn't matter who you flip, they're gonna die if you do have the right situation.
Right. Mouth ETC.
Oh, they want to murder. Okay, so Mouth and Tyrael.
Gosh, this is odd.
That was very quick. This is odd, as I lose my voice. But it's also very cool. Now, it's Garden. I like Mouth a lot on this map. This is definitely going to be... It's not going to be a Twilight Dream comp. We're not seeing Twilight Dream again.
No, the healing isn't quite there.
Yeah.
Without Tyrande in the team.
Tesseract helps, but going to be very cool to see this map, because it's not going to be Sanctification either. I know people are getting excited about the idea of Sanctification. Very uncommon heroic.
The thought had crossed my mind as well. Sanctification works to keep everyone immune. Doesn't block CCs, though.
Right.
And that's really everything about trying to get rid of Hammer, is to deal with CCs and block for CCs. Which I say it's strange to go for Tyrande and Hammer are just... It's so odd to see the two together on the same team.
It is.
Did I say Tyrande Material? Tyrael Hammer.
I gotcha. It is, because, like you said, Tyrael's about initiating on them hard, and Hammer's about staying in place and being protected. But we actually did end up seeing that Stitches after all. So we talked about the possibility of Stitches Jaina, and then we saw Diablo, and we're like, well, Stitches could still work, but they picked up Jaina. And then Stitches ended up being picked up after all. So should be Lightning Breath Putrid Bio with just tons of control and AoE. It's going to be very interesting. But I think the bigger story compared to the last game that I would like to talk about a little bit is the soaking capability with the global presence available from ETC and Brightwing. It put 2-arcs so far ahead constantly. They just constantly were soaking so much better.
They did play that very well, especially in the mid game. Just after level 10, they were doing tons of pushes with having the Temple, pushing with the Giants, having the presence of the other 3 heroes across the map, and the phase shift and stage dive were always on ready anytime they were trying these types of split push strategies, and they got a lot of value.
It made a huge difference.
Yeah.
So it's something that Lunatic doesn't have to worry about this game.
Right.
So, and as long as they are able to soak their lanes and keep up, it should be, a much more close game. And of course, when you're down in levels, it's very difficult to win team fights. So, it should be a very exciting game. I'm excited to see what they can do in this best of 3 series.
Do you need to do any swapping, Jake? Or
he's got it.
We're so ready. Right. Then you know what? Let's get to introducing these teams. On the blue side for 2-arc Iliad, we have Furious D on Vala. Trader's going to be playing Tassadar. Chubbs on Malfurion.
Yep, that's his proper pronunciation.
Quibsy on Sergeant Hammer, and Panucci playing Tyrael. How could I not emphasize the Z?
Chubbs.
SZ clearly calls for a long, drawn-out Z sound.
Oh, on the other half of the map, it is going to be Ivy Slime playing as Jaina Hospital. We'll be playing Tyrande Proteges on Uther. Stitches played by Cylol. And last but not least, it's Daihu on the Diablo. Now, why Daihu is not playing the Kaiju Diablo, I don't know. But he should step his game up. But look at that skin. So blue.
Yeah, that's the, I guess, the second best. Master skin color,
because it's not the red one.
It's not
the default.
The black and red one.
Oh, black and red one's the best one.
No, it is.
Default one's just boring.
Second best color is the white and blue trim.
Third tint for both the default and the primary. What's the best World War Hammer skin?
That would have to be the green one with the. I mean, they all have the little cards, but the green one with the light green one that we've seen played, that one's pretty good. I like it.
The RC cards are just make that skin.
All right, Jake.
Level up so hard.
Enough shenanigans. Let's talk about these lane compositions here. Yeah. Quibsy finding himself taking some pain from the Jaina. Actually ends up being a trade. Yep. Yes.
But of course, you have to worry about the stuns from the Ghost of Uther doing some work, applying the aggression. But Tyrande and Jaina, they have very small health pools. Yeah, how many female Warcraft heroes end with I guess Vala's not Warcraft.
What an obscure question.
Tyrande, Vala, Jaina.
Things to never ask your co-caster during a game if you want him to provide any commentary.
Hospital does get the heal, keeping him at home, and Chubbs will go back to base in the form of death. Hospital very, very low, just staying in those backlines. Has to be cautious, has to be wary. And the hook will reach for Fiercy, but not connect.
That was a good pickup for Lunatic. Just pulling that hero out of position and appropriately following up. We mentioned the Ranger's mark, the cooldown on the Hunter's mark last game was not quite necessary. This game, it's all about that pick comp. We want to have the cooldown for that to be a bit lowered so that those opportunities are more present. They can happen twice in a fight. Yes.
Fiercy gets eliminated. And actually, I just want to mention the fact that the way Daihu waited and waited and waited until he thought the seed camp in the top right would be almost done. And then he just shadow charged in, knocking Panucci off those seeds and stealing the majority of them. This time around, there's a route to zone for him. Chubb's doing a nice job throwing that route down to zone him out. But still, it's going to give them, a decent steal on some of the seeds, keeping the seed count pretty even.
Despite the kill count being 3-1, levels are pretty close, and the seed count, as you mentioned, still pretty close. We're going to have to pay attention to see what both teams are going to do strategy-wise, and Protoges might actually be finding himself in a bit of a pickle. The route was not quite in the trajectory that Uther was going to be walking through. Had it been placed a little bit more forward, they might have been able to grab a kill there. Still, the positioning, forcing him to tap well. It's good. It's going to cause the rotation for the rest of
Look at this aggression. Dodging the Lunar Flare. The Hunter's Mark is there, but Protoges, again, we saw how weak he was before that. If he had full health, they might have been able to consider pushing forward there, but not the case in this situation.
Good soak being attained for both teams, although they have opted to reduce a bit of presence in mid lane for both sides. The hook thrown to Quizby.
Quizby. He loves quizzes. They call him Quizby.
I'm just really hungry and I miss Quiznos. That's really good.
Quiznos still exists, just not
around here. God,
so sad.
Makes me so sad. Yes.
Quiznos, mail us some sandwiches, please.
All right.
Level 7 picked up. We see those talents being selected right now. Jaina is going for this very bursty style. We talked about the pick comp style. Well, that's exactly what it is. The additional 35% slow. The Arcane Intellect to maintain the mana. You don't have to get Envenom. It's nice, but it's not crucial. And Frostbitten to make the Frostbitten damage from 50 to 65%.
Do you think more control? I don't think we're going to see APOC here. There's no...
It's going to be Lightning Breath.
Yeah, there's no very necessary targets to attempt to stun out. If it was a Nazeebo, perhaps that can make that argument. Strafe, even if it's grabbed, you'll be able to dodge. Very likely to see Lightning Breath, Putrid Bile. That combo is very good.
It is.
Stitch's body blocking on the other side can hold so many targets down in place for Lightning Breath, which happens to be its biggest weakness, is that, of course, Diablo is stationary while casting it. But if you can find opportunities like this one, nicely done, Psylol. What a hook. Got a little bit of scouting for Hospital into the lane. They threw it over the bush. They had the appropriate amount of members to block on either side.
That sets them up to get a lot of seeds here. So they want to push forward. They want to get that first plant terror of the game. And by defeating this, they're going to get very close, and they have the ability to rotate up to the second terror. And it looks like that's exactly what they want to do. Chubbs is in a weird spot. If for whatever reason they scout that, okay, they're not even coming.
Yeah, they're not going to apply pressure. They're going to take offensive camps onto Arc's side.
Yeah, well, they know their opponents can't get a plant terror, and I like this. It's a safer play because you are at risk of losing a fight and them getting a terror anyways, and in which case you're going to lose the race to 10. But by taking these offensive camps, they're going to be Malfurion should be careful because the hook potential is real, and it does go out, not going to connect with Chubbs.
Yes, there are 4 members up to Arc nearby that could. I think both teams are going to play it safe until they hit the level 10.
Yeah.
And they're just going to feel each other out, see what heroics are grabbed. Let's talk about for 2 Arc, we have the Water Elemental, Putrid Bile, Starfall, Divine Storm, and Lightning Breath. I think all of those are about what we expected to see.
Yeah, and on the other hand, of course, here, for 2 Arc, now they did flip sides, it's actually Strafe, Archon.
Oh, yeah, jeez, okay, my bad.
Tranquility, Napalm Strike, and Judgment. So nothing weird, pretty standard stuff that we're seeing, a lot of AoE potential. So the damage potential is high, but the pick AoE damage potential is high actually for both teams.
Nice dodge. Hook was thrown out from Sylar, hoping to get Furious D. Would have been difficult to capitalize on the kill, of course. The Vault is an excellent tool to escape those scenarios.
At this point in the game, I actually prefer Lunatic's composition. I think they have the advantage in the mid game, just because of like the power of the Putrid Bile and Lightning Breath and how much damage they can do. But once we hit 20, the story could change a little bit. 20, I think the DPS scales quite well, but if they're putting all their eggs into like that auto attack out of Vala and of course Sergeant Hammer, imposing presence can shut that down quite a bit.
At least two imposing presence that we're likely to see. Probably going to be Uther and Diablo. Stitches does have the ability to grab that if they deem it necessary. Thus, we're likely to see the Napalm Strike upgrade. Oh, a bit of zoning. Quibsy might be a little bit too far forward. There's no one to body block the hook.
Yeah, but the hook is on cooldown for another 10 seconds. It's 5 seconds now.
Yep.
It was thrown out there, so he knows he's safe for a wee bit. Of course, that is a very long cooldown, but we see Diablo. He's going around the back, and he's going to try to engage. Vala is his target. No, excuse me, Chubbs. They want to remove the heals. But we have this very far forward. Tyrael, the Lunar Flare will connect after the Hunter's Mark goes down. A nice Divine Storm, but it's not going to be enough. Starfall is raining damage on them, but constantly, but they're just able to continue forward with the sustain. I mean, Archon, Vala, and Sergeant Hammer, that's a lot of damage output.
It's true. I was talking about how we don't normally see these two teams, or these two heroes, Tyrael and Sergeant Hammer, on the same side of the coin, but it's almost their version of Protect the Hammer. They wait for the team to dive in and just pick and choose the right target to throw. Oh, see, okay, that's what we're talking about with the Vault. Gets them out of the potential damage. That very much likely would have been a dead Vala.
Oh, yes.
If that Lunar Flare had hit.
Now, Quibsy maybe overstaying his welcome. The slow, no, okay, the heals are there, but Panucci not going to be so lucky. Aldruin's Might not going to be able to save him this time, and he's going to do what he can to explode as a ghost. No ghost
Splodies here.
Ghost Splodies. Sounds like a terrible cereal that I would never want my kids to eat.
Keats.
We are just failing in English tonight. And
there is so many cereals that involve ghosts. And all right, I'll caveat that by saying cereal knockoffs that involve ghosts. I feel like every cereal knockoff that if it has marshmallows in it, they just are ghosts. It's just standard, right?
Oh, that shape is clearly a ghost.
Yes. Well, lack of shape might be clearly a ghost.
Could be. The technology's not there yet.
I know, it's just not. You're right.
Okay, Lunar Flare is going to find, Sentinel is going to find one of their targets. The Divine Storm goes out in the Lightning Breath. 2 heroics used for 2 kills. No, Traitor with the precision. Oh my goodness, Starfall is used with the shield.
So good.
3 heroics used and only 1 kill achieved, but this will, of course, give them plenty of seeds. But on the blue side, the rest of the, we have Quibsy and Furious D cleaning up the rest of these seeds as well, so the seed count remaining very even.
I like the confidence that Lunatic is playing. Despite how the previous game went, they've picked up a composition that is tried and true. It's strong. It's been known to work in the past, and they're playing it very well.
Yeah,
you can tell they feel comfortable on it. I like to see that.
It's very convincing, yeah, too. I mean, when they get their hooks, they're following up in a good manner. And Panucci going to take a lot of damage here. That Hunter's Mark, you can never count it out how much damage that can do.
Yes.
And they're finally getting some structure damage on the board, catching up in levels. They're still a solid level down because of this the soak that's happening. There's actually members of all three lanes from 2ARK. And that's something that we don't have right now out of Lunatic Esports.
Rock'em, sock'em, plant battles happening in the mid lane. Still, 2ARK is on the side of the map. They are going to get quite a bit of structure damage. Throwing the what is that called? Is that the Queen's? No, Queen's Curse is the polymorph. Overgrowth. The overgrowth. Over the wall. I think that was just sort of a let's keep the plant busy as long as we can. Wait for the rest of the team to catch up. Sergeant Hammer very good for taking these down if they have the position. The hook thrown onto Panucci. Is it going to be enough?
Yeah, the Lunar Flare doesn't quite connect in that situation, so he's going to be able to get out scot-free. We see the Putrid Bile has been used by Sylar, and that's another heroic on cooldown. So that's the only heroic on cooldown in the entire game right now, so that's definitely something to consider. Panucci is going to be the target, and the stuns are real, so Uther throwing out his stun. He's trying to look for that Divine Storm, and he turns around and doesn't even end up connecting with Quibsy.
Wow, Quibsy, nice juke there. That was, he threw down the thrusters. Is they going to have enough damage to actually capitalize? I think they'd be just happy taking out the rest of this plant terror and suffering the 1 loss, trying to salvage what they have for this team fight.
Yeah, they defended. Their Plant Terror had way less health in that fight, and Lunatic actually they're the last ones to have a Plant Terror still alive, and they managed to get a kill. So definitely a win. Even though Quibsy had a nice dodge of the Divine Storm, still very well played.
I think Lunatic was absolutely expecting to get one more kill out of that. Quibsy was the right target. Kudos to that dodge. Just had the read on when exactly that Divine Storm was going to be thrown down.
Yeah, very, very well done. Very close situation there, and they're going to be able to get some Giants. Looking at the middle lane, that pressure has not stopped. They know they have that wall down, and they just want to keep them pushed back as long as possible. This siege mode is going to protect the hammer style to be so fearsome, and Judgment is always a threat that you have to think about.
Big heroic advantage for 2Ark at the moment. They hooked the wrong target, that being Panucci. Are they going to be eliminating him? He had the Druid's Mark down ahead of time. He was able to teleport back, and the Strafe, along with the Judgment, is going to help them to isolate and eliminate 2 targets. No, Daihu getting healed. Throwing down the Lightning Breath and canceling it, actually.
That was actually really smart. I think Diablo is dead no matter what. I like the idea of canceling it, but the Lunar Flare was so clutch there. Saved a couple lives, allowed them to back out of it, but this keep is going down.
I gotta say, 2Ark, they had a good feeling for how much cooldown time was available for the heroics. On the other side, they knew they had a small window to push through. All the heroics were off cooldown, even though they had just lost Panucci in that previous fight. As soon as he ran in, they got aggressive, and that's what 2Ark is known for doing, like pushing these types of advantages, where they can get aggressive and force a team fight. Where situations you think that they have a small window to do so, they'll manage to thread the needle.
Well, the Giants are pushing, but they're going to get cleaned up right now. 2Ark, they're sitting in lead in terms of the seed count, and the night phase has just begun. But this fight is when we finally see level 16 picked up for Lunatic, and we talked about how impactful the imposing presence can be. I mean, they've been taking so much damage to the auto attack. Oh my goodness, that fishing hook! Train of thought lost.
Silol. Well done, sir. That was a nice hook. And you were just talking about level 16, the impact that they have. That's an impact, boys.
Oh my!
Maximum range.
Like, it was just the hook just barely caught you. It was almost like cartoonish at how like it picks you up and then it goes like across the entire map. It seems such a powerful talent. And of course, both teams have enough for a Plant Terror. And again, the point I was trying to make is this imposing presence that reduces the damage output from both the Hammer and the Vala exponentially.
And Archon as well.
That's true.
Can't give that up. Also, there's splash damage, so it works in a similar way to deflate that auto attack speed for both those heroes. Another fishing hook down. Good read. They are very well aware of what 2Ark is likely doing. They're either there or they're trying to take the Giants in the bottom side, considering that they had a read on where they were just about 10 seconds ago. They figured this was the most likely option. Had they picked someone up there, another kill. So far, I gotta give credit. The hooks have been pretty impactful. Some hooks being thrown down into Tyrael, but when they catch their target, they're making use of it.
Yeah, it's looking good. And look at that, exactly 100 extra seeds after they grab that first Plant Terror. So they have exactly 2 terrors. It's
a big deal.
That's picture perfect. And, well, the Rock'em Sock'em Terror battles will start very soon. Now, the Terror rotate to the bottom lane because there were Mercs pushing there. Threw one Overgrowth down to handle the wave that will clear out the bottom wave, and now he's slowly making his way back up to this top lane. But the blue team, they're going to take that Cord out, no problem.
Right, only a small amount of damage has been taken for the blue side Plant Terror. It's going to provide a bit of an issue for Lunatic Esports. No, they are still getting aggressive here with Daihu out front. How do they defend this push?
It's going to be tough. Now, they do, again, have that second Plant Terror in their back pocket, which is really nice, but they have to look for that hard initiation. And the thing is when you go in and then they just Judgment behind you, it's a very scary situation indeed.
Yes. Hammer's wailing away. Looks as though Panucci is keeping his very best to make sure that he is standing front. Wants to block that hook. It's very important.
Now that's big. The hook with the Lunar Flare is going to remove the Terror, but Daihu will end up falling as well. There is not enough souls for him to respawn, and this is very quickly turned from an okay situation to the game being potentially over. They're moving forward. The Archon is healing himself with that Prescience, and the hook comes out, but it's still not going to be enough. Putrid Bile dishing out a lot of damage, but they just turn around and rotate over. Jaina does have that sprint to get out, but it's only 2 versus the 5 of 2Ark.
Trader so aggressive with every time the dimensional shift was thrown down, either through Prescience. He heals up, he knows this, and he has that movement speed. So I think situations where Lunatic Esports, we were expecting him to back up. No, he moves forward, gets to the other side of him. He knows he's in Archon. He can dish out a ton of damage. It was very much towing the line. He almost died probably 3 times in that last fight. They managed to keep him alive. The focus for the healing was there. The shields, everything was on point, just enough to keep him alive. And it really helped to sustain the momentum they had in that team fight. And they take a 4-0 huge advantage in that fight and allowing them to take a game, a fairly quick 2-0 victory over Lunatic Esports.
I mean, especially considering that was Garden.
Yeah.
Typically, Garden tends to be longer games.
Sure.
16 minutes. Convincing play. Lunatic made a lot of really good plays, but they didn't seem to have an answer for just like once Hover Siege was picked up.
Yeah.
Tuark they're just
marched.
like, we're marching. We're moving forward.
And the positioning, they had to get a pick.
Yes.
With the Stitches hook. And they had some nice ones previously, like right as soon as they hit level 16, we saw that massive hook thrown down. The potential was there, but Tuark was just playing with the Giants in front of Sergeant Hammer, and then as soon as those weren't there, Panucci, Ontario, just staying in front, making sure that pick wasn't going to happen. They just continued to push, forcing Lunatic Esports to just take an aggressive fight that they had to, because they're just going to get slowly choked out and going to lose the match. So they had to take an aggressive stance. Moved in, didn't end up panning out for them so much. Tuark takes the victory.
I mean, some cool rosters we saw there. I mean, definitely very cool composition out of Tuark. I love the fact that they lean to Tyrael, like, more than any other team. They're like the only team in NA still playing like a decent amount of Tyrael, and in different styles too. So it was really refreshing seeing that game. It was really effective in that game too.
Protect the Hammer, but with Tyrael version. Fun stuff. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Always cool to see that. As you mentioned, it's a nice trump card for them, especially in drafting. It makes it tough to draft against those guys because you don't know, are they going to take Tyrael this game? Wait, I'm looking at this and like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. They make it work anyway. There's so many times where I look at their composition like, this is questionable. Oh, they make it work. They obviously are very well seasoned, running Tyrael style comps where no other team is. And they make it work time and time again. So kudos to them for carving out a new side of the meta.
And that's going to put Tuark at a 5-1 in the standings. So look, I mean, of course, my graphic is not 100% up to date, but we can take a look at the standings here, because the Major League, well, next week is the final week of the group stage, and Tuark will now be 5-1. Well, who else is up at the top, Kubi?
That's the Barrel Boys. And that's the match we're going to be looking at next. Barrel Boys versus Tempo Storm. So, Tuark putting a bit of pressure on Tempo Storm here.
Yeah. Tempo Storm, if Tempo Storm loses here, they are down to 3rd place. They will be sitting at a 4-2 at 3rd place, and they have another game next week, sure. But
and that's out of their hands.
It's out of their hands. So they cannot get 1st place if they do not defeat Barrel Boys. Now, top 4 teams do advance to playoffs no matter what, but seeding is a big factor.
Good points to make. Okay. Okay, Quibsy has informed me. We're not marching. We're creeping.
We're creeping.
We're creeping.
We're creeping. We're creeping in our tank. I like it. Yeah, because marching's a little bit more like da 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 da. Creeping's a little bit more like a snail, right? Snails creep forward.
What was that? Like, all right.
Yeah, snail in it, right? Snail in it. That snails bobble their head like that, you know?
It's a tank.
But we can have a snail skin.
All right, Blizzard. There you go. Another skin idea. Gosh, we're just
cranking them out. Turtle would be better. Turtle or snail?
They both could work. One's just really, I guess. Oh, if you take Hover Siege, it changes it from a turtle to a snail.
Makes no sense.
What do you mean? Because now it moves slowly. Well, I don't know.
I picture like this sick turtle that when you Hover Siege, all of his arms and legs go into it, and he gets like little thrusters that shoot out of his like arm and leg slots.
Too much potential here.
Oh, that's too good. That's too good. All right, Blizzard, get to work. I expect that on my desk by next Wednesday. And all right, we're gonna have to take a quick commercial break and get ready for the 2nd series of the night, guys. Stay with us.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll be back. Actually, no, we got to figure out if the game's actually ready. Because it's only 9:11.
What'd you tell him? 5 minutes?
Oh, I said 5 minutes.
Oh, or you don't know this. You can't make these calls.
Right. So we don't actually know.
We don't know.
If
at the very least, we'll come back in 5 minutes and give you guys an update.
Yes.
As to what the position is for the teams. If they're ready to go.
Our admin has just informed us we're aiming for 9:30.
Wow.
So you got about a 15-minute break. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. We're going to come back at 9:30 no matter what. So this gives you a lot of potential and a lot of time to go make some nachos. I mean, you can make some. My buddy used to call them Maluto's Madness, and he had a mullet, so when we called him Maluto, he would put all kinds of meat and vegetables and chips and cheese, and he'd stick it in the oven for about 15 minutes, and you got to brown the meat first. I hope you have pre-browned meat.
Pre-browned meat. I hope you have pre-browned meat and can throw all of these ingredients together so that you have time to immediately throw it into the oven. He's not asking for a lot, guys. So take pictures of your. What are they called? Maluto's nachos. Please tweet those to us at the Kubi or at SolidJakeGGG.
Just tweet us your snacks, okay?
Yeah, we want to see what you guys are eating because we need to live vicariously through you guys. Obviously, we can't be stuffing our faces right now, so we have to see what you guys are eating.
Very good, very good. On that note, though, 9:30 Eastern, 17 minutes from now, we will be back from our break. So stick with us. Tell your friends and family.
All right.
Dogs and cats. We haven't said that in a long time.
You haven't said that in a while. Don't put me in with this.
See you in a bit.